Hello, everybody. I believe we're live. This is Laura Eisenhower, and I'm just so thrilled to have this guest, Lewis Herms. There's so much to say about him and so much to dive into, and I've wanted to interview him for a long time. And so for those that aren't familiar with him, this is a chance to really get to know him more. Some of you might already be very familiar with him. He's been in charge of the Truth Tour. He is doing the second Truth Tour that he is in the midst of. So we'll talk about that, but there's so much more to share that we want to get into. And I've wanted to interview him for a long time. So hold on a second. Sorry about the feedback there. If you saw a video that went up and we were talking, my live has just been not working. So excuse any tech issues. So thank you so much, Lewis. I'm going to read a little bit more about you, but wanted to say that he did the documentary, Watch the Water. I know a lot of people saw that. I think that went viral. So it's such a pleasure to have you. Thanks for being here.
Oh, of course. It's amazing to be here. You are one of my favorites. Have the most incredible energy and information combined. And it's really fun to talk to you. And you're right. It's been a long time and we should have done this forever ago.
I know. Well, we're going to have to make up for last time and do a whole bunch. And there's just so much to look forward to. And you're just really pulling together community and just this incredible tour. But gosh, there's so much to talk about as far as just everything that you've been up to. So let me read a little bit about him, you guys. And I'll share all the links, his Telegram channel, the website, and everything that you need to know. Anyway, Lewis has been awake for almost 4 decades, although he feels he regressed partially back into the so-called matrix for a few years post 9/11. In the past, he discovered government operations were using Google to cover up the HAARP program with a massive government-assisted mortgage campaign. He has experienced in the last few years within the Patriot community, uncovering the cabal campaigns. As of late, his focus and pride has been on a film named Watch the Water. And this film may be one of the greatest disclosure videos ever made. And without hyperbole, may shock the world. And it has, and it did. Lewis prides himself on being the reasoned person in the middle. In fact, he has been dubbed the 4D bridge, helping people transition from 3D to 5D by simplifying messages. Last and certainly not least, he's considered a rookie, although accomplished remote influencer. And I don't know if this is a recent bio. It's a great bio. I love it. I hope that's the right one to read as far as what's current. Is there anything else you want to add to all of this? And I love the whole bridging thing. That is like so incredible. And one of the most important roles a person could be holding right now. But anything else you want to share and take us into your journey and just
Sure.
what it's been like for you the last couple of years.
The only thing to add currently is in the last, I've done Truth Tour 1 and now we're on Truth Tour 2, but we could talk about that. But that's been a monumental task and you were wonderful at on the first one for sure. So my journey's been incredible, actually. I feel like I've been kind of awake forever, but it's weird because I was the rebel mentality. If it didn't make common sense, I would speak up and ask a question in a class and ask them to articulate what that means. By the way, that really frustrates teachers. You're just supposed to abide by their laws and the rules. So it was really, and I did it always with respect, but you know, if what they were saying seemed like BS to me, I had to question them on it, even when I was a kid. So I got moved around a lot, as you can imagine, in classes. So, oh, we don't want this kid. We don't put him over here. Put him over here.
I would have been your best friend.
Just give him an F. You know what I mean? It was just crazy. But and then when I was still young, I was in a car accident. I think mid-20s, and I was a passenger in the car. And it was a serious accident. I didn't get too much damage, but I did have a lot of soft tissue damage. So that was my first introduction into chiropractics. And shocking to me, the chiropractor I was so blessed to meet, he broke down big pharma. I won't articulate too much, in a way that was extraordinary. And here's the way he did it to simplify the message. Is he says, here's the way it works, Lewis. He says everything that's synthetic in your body has a side effect because your body reads it as a poison. Every challenge that there is out there can be cured with inside your mind or with something nutritional. This is what his words were. He says, now the businesses, the corporations that run the pharmaceutical industry, what they do is they have to create a synthetic string out of something because they can patent it. And when they patent it, excuse me, that's when they can make millions, even billions of dollars on just one product. Said, but the challenge is if it's patented, it's synthetic. If it's synthetic, it's a poison in your body. That really resonated with me. That was, over 30 years ago. So it kept my mind open constantly to the health community, and I would push back on doctors forever. And then it kind of took an interesting turn, and I started really researching. I don't know how it fell in my lap, but HAARP, which is the weather machine, HAARP. Here's what's interesting. You kind of tapped into it in the bio is we were really digging into this at one time, and believe it or not, Google was a place that we could share everything. Take links and share everything. And it was really a place that we were finding information. Clearly they figured it out, and they released the most progressive mortgage program in the history of the world. I'm sure it was just an accident, but it was named HAARP, HAARP. Although it had one letter difference, within days, finding the information on the weather manipulation was down at least 10, 11, sometimes 12 pages. It was crazy. So it just eliminated it right there. So it was next to impossible to send somebody to Google without a specific link to do research, because you just wouldn't find it. And that was an awakening for me, because then I realized how high up this manipulation goes and how sophisticated the game is. So I kept studying, and I would see this pattern over and over and over. We see it today constantly. Somebody will come on the scene with a name that's fairly odd, that will completely cover up something else of a name that we've been researching for a long time, and that name will go viral. So I won't go too much into that, but that really motivated me to keep going. And then I found that recently in the truther industry, we tend to talk to an echo chamber, and our goal should be to wake up somebody that needs to be woken up, not just give information from somebody that's already awake just to piss them off even more. So I created a film called 2020 Vision, which helped acclimate somebody to the conversation, because the reality is we got asleep because of the frog in the pot theory, where the cabal would slowly turn up the heat and we would boil ourselves to death. So I said, why don't we use that in reverse, where we wake people up by slowly acclimating them to the message? And it's been fairly successful doing it like that. And then we're here today, and I've made a bunch of films and done a lot of other work and collaborated with some people. But all I know is I'm happy to be here today, and I think I'm doing God's work, and I'll just take that guidance and follow it, and we'll see where it ends.
That's so incredible. Yeah, and that's a whole bunch of films. The bio I read only mentioned the one, and they've all been incredibly significant. And I just really love everything you're sharing, because this is really about lending a helping hand, helping people to be sovereign and heal and regenerate and thrive in these times, and not be dependent on a vampiric parasitic system. And it's, so incredibly powerful. And what you're talking about with the poisons, I mean, it's always shocking to me that these commercials still exist. I only catch them when I flip through a TV on, like, in a hotel. Otherwise I don't touch it. And the same commercials with the most horrific side effects: coma, bleeding to death, full body rash, everything that is worse than the actual condition. And I don't know how that isn't enough for people sometimes, and how it's been so politicized. How has it been for you with the word like patriot and being a part of this community, and how much people really misunderstand what that truly means, and they fall into that divide and conquer trap? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, as our friend Kathy O'Brien says, I think she's articulated better than anything when she talks about, I'll change the words for your platform, but this the sickness that we were supposedly going through, right? She says all that is 𝗏𝗂𝗎𝘆 masked as a virus. And I think that's brilliant, because the 𝗏𝗂𝗎𝗆 has been happening for a long time. A lot of people think it started with the CIA in the late 60s and 70s. That method of programming by pounding the same message into somebody over and over, by inebriating them or changing their chemistry, has gone on for thousands of years. And the reality, if we want to go off planet, who knows how long it's gone on, but it's super sophisticated. We only really found out what was going on in a deeper level after the 70s with the CIA stuff. So when they use this Freemasonic, Satanistic, MK Ultra, and everything is look at the left hand and the right hand's doing something, divide and conquer. But the divide and conquer is a lot more than red and blue, God and no God, you know, man, woman, transvestite. The division,
race.
right. The color, race theory, CRT. But the real division, and I want to really, I don't know if I can articulate this, I want people to grasp it. The real division that they're going for is right here. They're really, what they're trying to do is they want to separate your left from your right. They want you to stick in one side of your brain, primarily the left side, the one that they call logical, and they call it logical because they want to demean you if you're thinking other than logical, and therefore they can program you in the left side, right? What we are supposed to use our brain symbiotically with, and if you incorporate the pineal gland and the pituitary system inside that, then we work on a whole another level. Some people call it chakras, some people call it third eye. It doesn't matter. I think we label everything, but the reality is, right, this is the division they're trying to create, right here. They want us to second guess ourselves. Think, oh no, yes, no, this isn't right. Oh, I should do it this way. How about this way? So the confusion and the real division is right inside of here. And as long as we can realize that, maybe we can do what I've really pride myself on doing my best, is that first intuition that comes into your head, go with it, just right there. Don't second guess yourself, because that's God's word to me. That's a divine word. That's source, whatever you want to call it. That's the one right there. So I believe that's the true division that they're working on, and they've been extraordinarily successful at that.
I think that's so well articulated, and this is really what you embody in your work, in how you relate to people, and in everything that you do in service to humanity. That integration of polarity, being beyond that, being in an expression where that integration is taking place, and advocating for that human sovereignty that does that inner work and becomes that override frequency over those different tactics that have been used for so long. I mean, the false flags of world wars have been going on for thousands of years. It's not that people didn't die or things didn't happen, but the rewritten history and the reasons behind war, just like the current thing that we're dealing with, without mentioning what it is, like Cathy O'Brien said, social engineering, the psyops, the false flags, and the mind control, convincing well-intentioned people that they're doing it for good reasons, when in actual fact, the underbelly is really, really dark. And there's so many individuals like yourself and those that you gather on these truth tours that aren't in that divide and conquer, that are in this higher universal love frequency, unity consciousness, and a love and integrity and compassion and service to all, no matter who you are. And that's what I love. And I've been so blessed and just really just so grateful to be a part of this tour with you guys. It's like the highest vibe experience and so incredible to be there. What has it been like for you? I know you were one of those kind of kids, and I can totally relate. I love hearing about your how you were in the school systems. But like over the years, were there any kind of shocking, I mean, you probably have a whole ton of stories. What was it like for friends and family that might not be on board with this when you started to put out these documentaries?
Yeah, it's been rough, but so let me articulate where I am now, and I'll kind of reverse engineer it for people. So I'm an extraordinarily patient person. I think that's just one of my superpowers. So, and I joke around with people and I say, either be patient or become a patient. And, I have a lot of fun with them. But the reality is, one thing I did a long time ago, which helped give me peace, is I said, okay, if there is something called eternity, which I believe it is, if that's the ride that we're on, is more of an eternal ride, right? You're going to have to quantify it. So let's just say it's 1,000,000 years. Then we're here for 100 years. So why get so worked up about something in this 100 years if you're going to be on this ride for 1,000,000 years? So I really say so. And then what I really need to do is, if what we do in this 100 years sets us up for the 1,000,000 years, we need to be of service and be of sound mind and excuse me, remove the selfishness as much as we can. And of course, my ego gets in the way sometimes, my selfishness gets in the way, but if we can be as authentic and self-reflecting as possible, that 100 years will not just serve us, it'll serve everybody else really well into the future. So what happened is, I was there on January 6th. I was extraordinarily active at the Capitol. There's films of me doing some things, all good things, right? In fact, I believe that, which is a story that will probably come out in a bigger picture, myself and the Viking, that day, we actually saved lives.
Oh, right.
We're on film doing some. Ironically, I offered the footage up to his attorney. The assistant attorney wanted it, and the other attorney rejected it, which tells me there's something fishy going on there. The main attorney rejected it. But
his main attorney?
What's that?
His main attorney you're talking about?
His main attorney rejected it. Yeah, isn't that his defense attorney, his guy? But we already know how corrupt the system is anyways. I believe there may be a bigger picture there, though, that I can't go into now, but I think it may be a lot bigger than what it looks like anyway. So it may have been done for a reason. But regardless, so two of my daughters, fresh out of college, saw me there, and the next thing you know, they were literally trolling me, their own dad, on YouTube, which was a shock. So they were completely triggered by this. And the next thing you know, they disowned me. And when they disowned me, one of them already changed her name. Now, never had any challenges with them their whole life. I thought we had a decent relationship. I was a businessman, so I would admittedly said I could have been there more for them, right? But we never had bad words. I thought there was love, everything like that, which is really interesting. And then I became a racist, which is ironic because they know I was even working on and writing a book about my favorite person, Martin Luther King Jr. So it's pretty, and they know my dad was considered the white Rosa Parks because of stuff he did, right? He's literally written up in papers. But this is the way that MK Ultra works, in my opinion. So it can be very hard on a family, but at the same time, I said, okay, Lewis, be patient. Just tell them you love them. I'll be here when you're ready to talk. And that's where we've been for going on almost 2 years now.
That's incredible. I mean, I've heard, some, just shocking stories. That's really shocking because, I mean, it's so obvious what an incredible father you are and what an incredible husband. I mean, you honor your partnership so much. And that is such a huge example for any child that's being raised by their parents. And just your values, your integrity and all that. It's pretty wild. I mean, Jim Brewer did a few stand-up acts about his kids going off to college. And he said, basically, they came back. I'm a racist. Basically, I paid this amount of money for them to be indoctrinated and completely hate me now.
Indoctrination.
Yeah. And it's unbelievable how severe it is. I mean, when we look at our generation and what we grew up with and just what is happening to our younger generations, how do you see us reversing this? I mean, I know that you are in action. People like us take action, but have you seen and heard? I mean, I know there's, the Mama Bear and a lot of others that have been speakers on the Truth Tour that tell their personal stories of standing up in their community. Do you want to share a little bit about some of those people that you've met and some examples in your own? Well, you've already have so many in your own, but anything you want to share about some of those examples of people taking a stand in their local community? So anybody listening, it's like you can stand up and take a leadership role right here, right now, where you live and what you're facing in your school systems, medical community, hospital. I mean, like, what kind of inspiring examples do you want to share?
What you mentioned, Mama Bear is a perfect example. So she's going viral now. She's on Fox News, and and a lot of other stations, because she actually found what the outfit that a transvestite wore in order to do a very sexual dance in front of kids in the Ankeny school district in Iowa. She says, okay, I'm going to ask if this is okay. So she wore that outfit herself. I was blessed to know about that before it happened, because she actually said, here's what I'm thinking about doing. What do you think? And I said, well, if anybody can pull it off, not literally, but but you could do it and it would be fantastic. And sure enough, she went up there with the courage that she has, and she was very nervous when she went up there. And next thing you know, she's going viral. But we have several stories like that. The beautiful thing about this truth tour is we have such an eclectic group of influencers, but they understand that we the people are first. So we mix with the audience so well, where we become one, and then we get the tears and the laughter, but we get the stories also. And I can't really articulate one, because I can say at every single stop, we've heard incredible stories how somebody stood up in their community, and it was so motivating for other people that were there. And it's really the we won't take it anymore moment is so powerful right now, and we're seeing it. And there's absolute momentum here. If anybody doesn't think this is biblical right here and now, it is. And there's so much good to find in what's happening right now. We don't have to focus on the fear anymore. In fact, I would recommend not focusing on the fear, because that powers the cabal.
Oh, completely.
So we can absolutely see it's going. I can tell you, my wife would be, you honored my wife, and I appreciate that, because I love her dearly. I can absolutely tell you that she's one of the best red pillars on the planet, because she's a hairdresser, and she's one of the best hairdressers in Southern California. She's known as an incredible hair. She fixes hair that anybody screws up, and so on and so forth. You're funny. So what happens is she knows that she's got him in the chair for whatever amount of time, and it's just red pill central the whole time. Now, she gets some pushback and some arguments, but they always come back because they know how good she is, right? But what she's noticed, that people that she's started to plant a seed a couple of years ago are now coming back to her and saying, things aren't right. Can you tell me what's going on? Which is beautiful. I had recently a mayor of a town near me of 60,000 or more, was the mayor for 26 years. And we would talk here and there, and he came to me, a mayor, and he says, what's really going on in this world? So we are making a difference. That should also help people. Maybe don't be so hard on your local politicians. They may not know what's going on. You know, they are brainwashed just like we have been. In fact, they're probably a bigger target. They're not all getting paid off. I can absolutely tell you, though, there is no red and blue, guys. It's all actors. And so you either have the anti-establishment or the establishment. There's pretty much nothing else in there. And here's what's ironic. When I was younger, the anti-establishment were hippies and liberals. The anti-establishment now are conservatives.
Isn't that unbelievable? I'll never get used to it. Like, old deadhead friends are all about this agenda. I'm like, seriously?
Right.
I mean, I could go on, and I know you could too about that.
It's amazing. I think it's extraordinary.
It's mind-blowing, really. And even people walking into like an herbal shop, it's like, everybody put this on. But I love these stories because they actually have made a difference. Laws have been changed. Right. So, I mean, yes, and that's why this is amazing and powerful times, nothing to fear. It's a catalyst for our great awakening and recovering our treasures, calling our power back, recognizing that we're co-creators, as long as we're not consenting and we stand up for what's right. And this is what you do. And this is what the people that you gather are doing. And the people that come that are in the audience. And it's been so incredible to participate. And I've been doing this as well. And so many. And what's wild is when people hear somebody like Laura Worley for the first time. And before we jump over into that, maybe, what's incredible, what you're sharing is there's compartmentalism. There's so many of those in the political realm that are kept in the dark, like you said, compartmentalism, and also blackmail. I mean, we need to like help them as much, instead of cast them as the enemy. We need, and this is why people like Laura Worley and Kathy O'Brien are so critical to this tour, because they have recovered from running altars of being very nefarious, dark individuals playing a leadership role that help people to have more understanding of what we're up against when it comes to people in these positions of power. Want to talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well,
Maybe we should be careful with what we share, but anything
Absolutely.
with all that, whatever you want to share about.
Well, you mentioned two of the most extraordinary people I've ever met, absolute heroes of mine, and understanding the platform we're on. We'll just say that they may or may not have been trafficked through a White House, and it was serious business, and there was a lot of rituals that were conducted, and even with Kathy, it went from her to her daughter, which she had to watch and endure, and they both broke out of that with some help, and they're both still working on it. With the light that Kathy shows is just amazing, and
Unbelievable.
the power and the courage that Laura has is just incredible, because she's just recently having some experiences, and she's talking about it, which is just so courageous. But that's how we're going to learn. Those are two phenomenal examples of warriors in this movement. And some people don't like when I call it a movement. It is, in my opinion, it is. But
God, it's stop being so sensitive to words. Cut it out.
I know it, isn't it crazy?
I know. I absolutely agree. It's been incredible to get close with them and do interviews with them and see them, on this tour. And they just really gravitate towards the ones that are not in the conquer and divide, that really are, not to say that they don't understand those that are caught in the mind control. That's why they're such great awakeners, and their light is so huge. And this is where a lot of hope is. If they can overcome what they have gone through, it gives me so much hope, which has always been there, but even greater hope that children that have been super indoctrinated and really harmed by the system on whatever level are going to be capable of recovering. A lot of powerful starseed kids are born. And I just feel like this is what the Truth Tour represents, this level of leadership and community that can reach all levels of everybody who's being affected by these psyops and this dark agenda. Want to talk to us a little bit about that and the community building aspects, and where this tour is going, and kind of like larger picture, what you're kind of seeing, what the next thing is, and anything like that?
Yeah, so I'm kind of a middle of the road guy. I take more of a pragmatic approach. So do I believe there's military and white hats working in the background through Space Force and other things? I do. Do I also believe that there's no way that we're going to produce the world that we want and get to the next, jump over the next hurdle and get to the end without we the people? I also do. So those aren't mutually exclusive. It's all right now, it's all about we the people. But I believe it's the grassroots that are a lot more important. And frankly, and I say this often, the people that we can touch in the community level are a hell of a lot more important than Lewis Herms on a national level. Because what happens is when they can bring that community together, the strength in there is unbreakable. So something I've been doing as of late on the Truth Tour on the stops is I have been handing the microphone or asking real quick, please just tell me your city and where you're from, and then look when you make a connection, and then please exchange phone numbers, and maybe you can start your own groups to start getting the word out on a local level. And it's been extraordinarily powerful when you hear a city named ABC City, and then later somebody say, I'm from ABC. Oh, wow, we're both from ABC. This is amazing. And now they make that connection. Because if we can build 2 people in a community that build 4, that build 8, that build 16, that build 32, we grow exponentially from a grassroots. And guess what? The cabal never can take that down. That is an unbreakable force right there. So I'm just a conduit for this information and ideas. The reality where it's really going to take hold is grassroots. When we start getting in together, changing our schools, rewriting our construct of society, or whatever people want to call it, in our own image, in God's image, I think that's where we need to go.
That's so beautiful. And I mean, unfortunately, people have gotten so cynical about God and all the benevolent things and have attached themselves to these false movements that are targeting well-intentioned people, where this movement is truth. And this is why I love the fact that it's just straight up truth Tor, because that vibration for a Tor and the truth frequency that we hold within ourselves holds such a charge that lies and deception can't exist in that energy field. And it really strengthens the audience members and the speakers to strengthen that frequency to the point where when we navigate this human experience, we can see through the lies and deceptions and all the different hooks that are trying to defeat us, tire us out, exhaust us, smear us, target us, and censor us, or pit us against each other. And I've never seen that in this group and in the people that you bring forward, and the days and days of, and months that go by of being on this tour. Was really incredible. What was the spark that was the first idea when you're like, I'm going to create this truth tour?
Well, it was an accident. So, which is sometimes that's where the divinity comes from, as we know. So I have I guess a fairly large group of subscribers on Telegram, and it's called 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. And I was thinking one day, I go, I wonder if we'd all like to get together, right? And I threw out the idea, and in the chat just blew up. They said, oh, this would be a wonderful idea. And I said, I wonder if I can get some known speakers and not so known speakers, because I think that's actually more important. That's another, but together in one place, and they all loved that. And I said, okay. So I threw out about 5 cities, and they chose Florida at the time. Actually real close to where I am right here near Tampa Clearwater area. So I started organizing this, and I was getting a lot of pushback from events, spaces, venues, hotels. Like when they found out that my platform was 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, I was gone. No, don't want to do business. Finally, one we negotiated with for about 2 weeks. We're just about ready to sign contracts. And the day it was time to sign contracts, I get a contract that was more than double of what they negotiated with me. And it was very clear it was based on my platform again. They wouldn't admit it. So I had to cancel. So I stepped back and I said, okay, I said, why was this put in front of me to cancel it? And I thought about it. I go, you know what? Who's this about? This isn't about Lewis, and it's not about the influencers. This is about we the people. And then it came to me. I said, if this is about we the people, I need to get my ass on the road and bring people to we the people instead of expecting them all to congregate in one space and hail Lewis. That's not what this is about, right? So I said, okay, I slapped myself in the face, and I said, let's retool this. And I just started saying, okay, how can we get around the United States? And when I was just drawing it, I think I drew it counterclockwise. And anyways, we ended up doing 22 cities in 31 days on the first one. And it was evident, but when we got to the halfway point, that this was a resounding success. Now, I don't mean a financial success, because I got my ass kicked, but that's okay. It was a resounding success with we the people. So I got my wife on board. She was very supportive. So about 2/3 of the way, we had that conversation, and then we announced Truth Tour 2 as you were there in Las Vegas. And then now we're doing Truth Tour 2, and it's even more extraordinary the way we're touching the people. In every place we kind of morph it. And that's how that last idea that we've only been doing for the last 5 or 6 spots of having people connect within their community, we said that's about one of the most powerful things we've done. So we just go with it. So as long as I do a couple things, I have to remember that God has only blessed me with a platform. That's it. So I'm no different than we the people. So as long as we can keep our ego down where it needs to belong, it's balanced, that's important. And if we constantly act in service, and for me, if it's that first thing that comes into my head, that's what I act on, it's served really well. And then that's really what we're doing on the Truth Tour. And it's been, plus I told everybody, I said, this one, we nicknamed it Fun, Fun, Fun. I said, because our job is we need to bring the vibration up as high as we possibly can in these times. So we do a lot of goofy stuff also.
Oh, the goofy is the best. And the more the insaneness of it all, the funnier the memes, the more crazy the humor. And it never takes one away from being incredibly proactive and being just here for future generations to protect our children and to help end human trafficking, pedophilia, and all these horrific crimes against humanity. And so it's just the whole package. And it's just incredible what you've done. And your humility and integrity is just such a beautiful thing. You don't see it every day. But you do on this tour. All the speakers, all the people in the audience, all the ones that are waking up, that are finding that core divine truth or center or grounded place within themselves, really helps them to deprogram and overcome the grief, the anger, the confusion, and some of the subpersonalities that the 𝗏𝗂𝗎𝘁 can create, as people have been very lost for thousands of years because of amnesia and what we're born into. And so this is such an activation, and it ripples out to the whole collective. And it's such a great thing. Anything we haven't shared that you want to talk about just your life, your work, this tour, just anything that we haven't covered yet in this conversation?
Well, I mean, we can talk for days. I kind of repeat this one message over and over because it's so helpful. If I can give two messages, and by no reason am I a guru. I live by this. So I would just want to share it. I like to tell people that let's assume that we walk through life with a cup of oil, and all the things that we fill that cup with, from what wonderful things that somebody else may say about us, that would be the light oil inside the cup. But every time that we understand that God, source, whatever everybody wants to call it, has created us as a beautiful, beautiful being, and we are wonderful, and we say wonderful things about ourselves, that's filling up that cup with heavy oil. So when we trip through life, if our cup's mainly filled up with light oil, that pours out. And then we have to restructure and regroup and come back to our positivity and knowing. But if we fill that cup with hot, heavy oil, and we love ourselves and just know internally that we are wonderful, and we are a spirit, God's gift here, when we trip, and we always do, just the light oil will come out, no big deal. It's a bad few moments, you get back on track and you move forward. If people can use that, it's very little teeny tools like this are extraordinarily helpful. Now, in combating the cabal, I think we have to understand it doesn't matter how hard we fought and whether we're winning or not winning. One thing that universally we could probably agree on is they feed on fear. Some people call it luge, which, and I don't dig so much into the outer universe as you do, because I try to just keep everybody in the kind of the 3D to the 5D. My reality is trying to just help people just move forward into their ascension, whatever that ascension is. It's not my business.
No, that's very, yeah. I'm kind of all over the place, but you're very good. I mean, you're an incredible bridge. That bridging is so important. So keep going. Yeah.
So what I've noticed is that it seems like the cabal really, really feeds. It's a fuel. Their fear, our fear is a fuel, right? And so what I would just like to say to people is, knowing it's a fuel, would you intentionally ever give your enemy fuel? Would you go fill their tanks on the battlefield? Of course you would never do that. So we have to find a way to find the positivity in everything, right? And we have the power to manifest. They don't. Now, they've been using us to manifest forever, by feeding us negative message and social programming, and knowing that when we worry, we're manifesting the worry. So we manifest for them because they understand we can manifest. The cabal can't do that.
Right.
So the thing is, we need to realize is the three things I mentioned can all be gifts to ourselves, or it can be a gift to the bad guys, the deep state, the cabal, the Satanists, whatever you want to say it. So would you rather like to hold on to the gift, or you and your loved ones? Or would you rather give it to the enemy? And that's a choice that we can make.
And that's one of the most important points. When they infect our creative energy, we are enabling the very things that we don't want. They wouldn't have any power unless it was stolen power, because they're parasitic. They require our energy to have power, and they require our creative imagination in order for us to manifest what they want instead of what we want. So when we cut the cords, then they begin to just fall away. It's like, the people are afraid of seeing the red flag sometimes in relationship. If a person's an abuser, a cheater, or lying to you, or stealing from you behind your back, some people are in denial. They can't imagine that the person they married could be capable of it. But once people cross over that threshold and realize this is a reunion, this is something to celebrate, to finally cut the cords and be rid of that level of parasitism, negativity, and darkness and manipulation, we have so much to look forward to. And that's what I really feel you embody as a bridger. You know, it's very traumatic for people to wake up from this stuff, but the bridging, you know, invites people to walk like through that really challenging layer and that challenging place, and feeling into that dark night of the soul without the terror connected to it, with more of the reassurance because of this level of love, compassion, and service. So I just really appreciate that. And yeah, I hope that kind of defines what, or I came close to sort of articulating that correct. Like, you know what I mean, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I actually thought you articulated it better than I did. So,
Oh, no. Well, I mean, your presence and just the intuitive hits that I get just, and, you know, I strive to, you know, do the best I can. I just feel, just so uplifted ever since, you invited me to go on the tour. It actually really changed me and pulled me out of a lot of funks of feeling frustration, feeling just, and then it's just like, oh, here he is, you know, and, and I know you're so humble, but I could throw out so many words that would make you probably feel uncomfortable, but I mean, it's beyond saint status. It's just incredible what you're doing and who you've pulled together, and how much you give people a voice. You've given me so much love and respect and support. It's meant the world to me. And you do this for all beings, and you see the greater potential and you pull that out. You don't talk to their programmings. You talk to that soul that is crying out for help, and you help to bring them more to the forefront, so that that false personality that's been mind controlled or socially engineered can begin to fall away. And that's an incredible ability that most humans don't know how to do, but they're remembering how to do. And to me, that is the Great Awakening, is stepping back into that level of self-awareness, I guess you could say. And that to me is a higher form of self-love. It's not the self-love ego, like,
right.
you know, it's like, it's honoring the divinity within the self, regardless of what anybody thinks. And your story and your life really exudes that. What were your thoughts when your documentaries just like really hit a lot of people and like created a lot of change? How was that for you? Like, and which documentary came first? Just give us the chronology, and then I know we should close probably pretty soon.
Sure. So I did, there was a movie called 2020 Vision, and it was, frankly, I would say that was my first, but that was built out of frustration. I was watching a lot of wonderful films and everything in the truther community, but I felt like we were talking to an echo chamber. So it would feed somebody that already knew, or somebody that was awake, but I didn't see how it was beneficial for somebody that wasn't, because I believe sometimes when you slap somebody in the face with the information, they want to run away. So I felt a need to somehow open them up to the conversation first. So my first film, 2020 Vision, started with a paradigm shift. And the paradigm shift, really, if anybody knows, it's when you think something is one way, but it could be exactly opposite. But when you realize, it's like, wow. So I explained it through a story what a paradigm shift was, because that's what I was hoping that they would achieve through this. And then I showed them that there were existing facts that we know today that were once considered conspiracies. So now that opens them up to maybe be aware and open to the idea of maybe we are living with some conspiracies right now. And then I slowly started to articulate facts and how conspiracies that we live in with now. And I was very proud of that film. And a couple of people told me that it's way ahead of its time, which is, I guess that's a good thing. And one person that we both know, that I can talk about off air, but said to me that he said, you know, about 2.5, 3 years from now, and that was at the time, he said, you may want to put this back out. It's just not going to resonate with people yet. And that time is almost now. So I'll probably be, you know, talking about that film again and re-putting out 2020 Vision. And then another one that went mega viral was called Watch the Water, Trump, Q, and Deuterium. And I'm very, very proud of that film. And this is how divinity works. So I went on a tour with Nick Alver so we can interview people like, I think, you know, Rob Potter, Michael and Tracy Jaco, and Dr. 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 through his assistant at the time, and she just mentioned deuterium, and it's just like, what is that? I didn't understand what it was. She explained what it was. And then, even though the interview was about Russia technology and all this wonderful Tesla stuff, I just happened to ask him. I said, well, tell me about this deuterium stuff, because I didn't know. And I was enthralled. And so that was, to me, a divine hit, right? Ironically, when I got home and started working on editing and doing all this stuff, and Nick was doing his thing, all I could focus is on the deuterium, which was not the point of us going there. So I decided to research it, and I just dove into what deuterium really was, and it absolutely blew my mind on how we are manipulated globally with an aging process within all of our water. That's an isotope that almost can't, I say almost can't be removed. But then I found the good spots about it also. Made a film on YouTube. It got 85,000 hits immediately. Then it was deleted, and then it went viral, but not on my platform. It was stolen over 30 times. And then people rebranded it with their own logos. And at first it was frustrating. And then I'm like, well, I'm getting the word out. That's all that matters. So that was great. And then in the future, I've done a lot of short little films. Like I kind of prove how the word meek is manipulated, not in the Bible, but outside of the Bible, it's completely manipulated. And then I did something on from 𝗏𝘆𝗶𝗏𝗏, and it was called The Green Man, and a lot of other films like that. And I even went to analytical portion. I took Mike Lindell's lawsuit, and I created a film that almost nobody watched, but I'm very proud of, called The Mother of All Lawsuits, where it really broke down what's really going on. By the way, little words and phrases they used throughout that lawsuit are exactly what's going on now with the takedown of the cabal. So it's interesting how that future proves past thing works out.
Wow, right. Gosh. So I know I have the Truth Tour website. What website can people find your documentaries?
Okay, so you can, if you want tickets or anything on the Truth Tour, that's truthtour.net. What I've gotten smart, because it seems like I'm shadow banned everywhere, is I actually created a website called screwbiggov.com.
That's right.
And so you can go to that, but there's also links to my Rumble channel, which I post most of it. In fact, you can watch the whole Truth Tour for free on Rumble. You click on the Rumble, and what I'm most known for is probably my Telegram channel. So you click on there. Even Telegram shadow bans me. You can not search it, my name, 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, but you can get there on a link and still join. So it is what it is. We're still fighting the battle on every level, and I believe we got this.
Oh, totally, totally. And the more they try and quiet folks like us, the louder we get. And there's no weapon we can't turn around into a tool for something that is useful in assisting and awakening us to just our full potential, which is an override frequency to all these dark technologies, which is just inverting us when we are really ready to thrive. And thank you for being such a leader and such an example and such an activator and an embodiment of this. It's always a pleasure to be in your company and to talk to you. And I look forward to doing stuff together in the future. And I'll put all that info down. Everybody, I've lost a lot of channels. This might be an interview I might not keep up for very long, but I will put it on my alternative platforms. I'll give you the link, and I'll keep it up for a while. Check out my Telegram channel. You'll see it in the description. I will be posting all of that there so that you can make sure to get all this and share it with your friends and family and join the tour. Can we name some of the speakers and some of the next dates real quick? Sure.
So Friday is, I call this kind of a mega event. We usually have about 8 speakers, but we have 17. So that's in Clearwater, Tampa, Florida. So we have Leanna, we have Baby Trump, Winifred Adams, Mark Atwood, Kathy Chamberlain, Carol Maureen Friesen, Michael Jaco, and I finally convinced Tracy Jaco to get up on stage. So she's going to have a segment. We have Jason Q, Derek Johnson, which everybody's learning about right now with the military. Jack Lander, Sophia Mona Lisa, Ethan Lucas. If you want to learn about somebody breaking down the Bible, it blows me away. Bruce Poppy, the lovely and wonderful friend of mine, Lance Shuttler, Kenda Strand will be there, and we'll be closing off Friday with 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. That's just in Tampa.
Wow. So, I mean, there's, you can get all that other information. I was going to hit a few of these, and I'm traveling this month. Right now, I'm in Bryce Canyon. My father came to visit, but I know there's going to be more that we can do together. I'm always just here to support. I'm always here with you guys in spirit, of course, and just share this with your friends and family. Be a part of this. It's going to lift you out of any funk that you're in. It's going to remind you of who you really are and how creative you are and how much, we are only in the doom and gloom when we consent, and we are enabling this through allowing them to infect our creative channels and our minds. And thank you for just refusing all this, and just the laughter and the good news. And it's time to celebrate. And what an incredible crew that you brought together. So thank you so much, Lewis. Much love to you and your wonderful wife and everybody on this tour. Tell everybody I said hi, and I'll connect in somehow from afar. And just, I know you'll keep me in the loop about what's next, I hope. And let's have another conversation again soon.
Absolutely. I appreciate you a lot. Thank you so much.